Hello, looks like we're the first ones. You're muted.
Unmute.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm glad to get these. I get Zoom meetings. I'm from New Jersey.
All right. Okay. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Have you ever heard of these guys before?
Just seen it because I don't really follow headphones much. Primarily,
Right. What's that?
I appreciate planars and electrostatics, but I'm really hot on dynamics, and I have questions about planars.
Yeah. That's sort of the main reason, that I booked them, because they say theirs even plays stadium. So
Well, you can play loud enough, but what I tend to mean by dynamics is, I guess, a better term that actually goes back, believe it or not, Bud Fried.
yeah.
Dynamic linearity, meaning that the level changes are as compressed as little as possible. And I think, especially at low levels, I worry about the dynamics of planar drivers. And that seems to be the reputation of magnepans, for instance. You got to play them loud.
Well, I hope you ask him.
I don't know. I sometimes
No.
I stick my foot in my mouth.
That's okay. That's okay. That's the last thing we worry about. No, you can't stick your foot in your mouth when you're trying to. What's that? The old saying: "There's no such thing as a bad."
Yeah, but it comes from, admittedly, I have some knowledge, and I'm also biased, and I'm always worried that my questions come from bias. And my biases are because of what I did, the people that influenced me over the years, things like that.
Hey, that's how we navigate the world, is through our biases and things that we've learned. You can't make a mistake, so please.
I'll see.
Yeah. But who are you afraid of it looking bad in front of a bunch of other audio files? I don't think that's a high.
Sounding foolish, and although, like I said, I put my foot in my mouth. I once told the guy from Magico I knew how to make the new big speaker better in front of a Zoom meeting, and I was basically right. Although I'll tell you, his answer was interesting. It's a four-way speaker, and it has an active crossover to the subwoofer.
Yeah.
And I totally believe in active crossovers, because you get rid of most of the reactance of a crossover, which is one of the things that fouls up amplifiers. So I told him we should make it fully active. And his answer was that even at $750,000 plus enough money to make multi-million-dollar systems, the buyers were complaining they had to buy an extra amplifier. Or is it more commercial stuff? That's what I thought.
There is. I've listed. I've got the list of the audio exhibitors, but frankly, it's moving on to other areas.
That's what I thought, and that's why the other shows are becoming more important for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what about all that searching they claim they're going to do of bags and COVID? What happened with that? Anything unusual?
They were giving away COVID tests for those that wanted, but there were, other than that, no restrictions.
And did they search bags and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and I told them off. I said it's a waste of time.
What were they searching for?
Bombs. They think they're an important show, and they got to get over it.
And did you stop them from searching bags, or you just got your?
No, they asked for feedback afterwards.
Oh, good. I always put the same thing. It's crap. How many people showed up this time?
About 115,000.
Wow, that's way down.
The
Okay.
peak was 180,000 in 2020.
Okay, 2020 is the start of the pandemic. Okay.
Well, the show ran just before, there was already rumblings about something going on in China. And I think the US knew more than they were telling then, but they didn't really. I went to 2 other shows in February of 2020. And I had meetings. I had a meeting at MIT on March 6th, and
Mhm.
then everything shut down. And I had a European trip scheduled for 2 weeks later, and United Airlines kept telling me, don't worry, we'll get you to Italy. They
Ah,
didn't.
they did, right.
You can really count on the airlines.
Pardon me?
You can really count on the airlines these days, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ken, Nick and I were doing a recording of the BB&B Symphony Orchestra today, so he's on his way home. So he'll be tuning in probably around 7:30. So we'll carry the meeting, Dave and I, until open forum. Our guest David hasn't tuned in yet, and he said he was going to tune in early. And I'm hoping he's got his East Coast, West Coast timeline in play.
Mm-hmm.
So can't do anything about that. We just have to. I just called his phone number and did not get an answer. Not exposed to it. Could be just the factory. I don't know where the phone goes to. And so that may or may not be where he does his Zooming. So I'm just saying that I've got no promises that our guest is going to show up, even though he said he'd be there. And I've talked to him. I think I talked to him Wednesday, and he said he's going to be here. So that's what we're running on. Okay, it's just turned 7 o'clock. So
That sculpture you've got for your backdrop, is that on the Boston Common?
yeah, you probably have seen it.
Yeah, near the State House, I think.
There you go, right across the street. Yeah. The Shaw, I call it Shaw Army, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyway, it's 7 o'clock. So, David, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and start.
I don't think we should start on time.
Oh, you don't?
Right.
Okay, well, because Ken's got a mini report on CES. Ken, I'm gonna have you repeat what you just said.
Well,
And
I've got a
not now.
presentation.
Dave said, hold up.
No, I just wanted to clarify, Alvin. I've got a presentation ready for next month.
Right.
So
But
you want me
this
to give a teaser this
A
time?
teaser. Oh, this is open forum. And Alan Eggleston is from the New Jersey Audio Society. You have anything you can add to an open forum? That'd be appreciated. Alan?
Not sure what I'd add, but there's like things.
Do you have a green
think we
light
should wait if you need it.
illuminating you?
What?
Everything in your room is green.
There's a light shining up if I turn. I get a lousy picture. This is actually the best picture I've ever had at a Zoom. It's the clearest.
What kind of, is it tungsten or fluorescent? It looks like a,
No, it's a, it's a solid state light.
you mean for one of the new
One of the
LED
field
lights?
ones. It's one of the old ones.
I think it's your camera. I noticed there's some resolution issues and
It's an very old laptop. It's still using Windows 7. I'm worried about when it's going to crash eventually.
I don't think it's an operating system issue. It's probably the electronics for the camera.
Okay, but I know it's pretty old. I don't know if that makes a big difference. It's got to go back 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I've had the same results with one of my old laptops. So the camera is just not up to it.
I actually have a newer computer. I'm just too damn lazy to set it up, partly because I actually despise computers. Even though I worked for AT&T writing simple programs for 20 years.
What are you retired now?
They retired me April Fool's Day 2000.
Wow.
It's an easy date to remember.
Wow.
Well,
2000.
you
That means
said
you're
you were
retired
in-
for
Were you in
23
Bell
years?
Labs, you said?
No, I worked for AT&T.
The new one or the old one?
Originally the old one, and then I transitioned within 3 years, when they broke it up to what became the old one. And the new one, of course, got bought by what was originally Southern Bell. It got
Southwestern
by its
Bell.
children.
Yeah, I heard Southwestern Bell was a pretty poor company.
I don't know if it was Southwest or Southeast.
It was the one in Texas.
Okay. I thought that was associated. I'm not sure. But still, it got eaten by its children in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the world was in great peril that AT&T was going to be unleashed. And I watched incompetence after incompetence every year. They didn't know what the hell they
Yeah. We have this notion if you're big, you must be smart.
Well, they were afraid of Bell Labs, I think. And AT&T was really good as a utility, with controls where they had guaranteed income. They didn't have to change that fast. And they gave you a very high quality product with guaranteed income. Once they had to really compete, they were in trouble.
What they failed to realize is the benefit of features that consumers wanted.
Yes.
For example, when the original cell phone was an analog system that came close to the quality of a landline. Then when they went to the digital system, they knew they were squeezing bandwidth and wouldn't get the voice quality. And they thought people just would abandon it. And what they failed to realize is the benefit of a cell phone is portability. And people valued that even at the expense of voice quality.
Yeah, but that was one of the few things they were reasonably successful at. Because one of the big reasons they got bought was to get their cell phone facility. The rest of what they were doing was useless. But they were used to building high quality, simple products that stayed in the line year after year after year.
Yes, the original telephones were intended for a 50-year life.
I always had the image that if you drop the Western Electric phone, and I'm exaggerating, of course, on a concrete floor, the concrete floor was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only a slight exaggeration in a way. One of the things that always interested me was the fame of the 300B tubes. And I had a friend named Murray Seligman who did really exotic things with tubes. And I called him up once and asked him how good the 300B was. And he said, I'd give it a B+. And I was sort of in shock. And then there's more to the story, but the important thing I think is then I realized that I think a big part of the value of the 300B was the Western Electric 300Bs that were designed to be put in the ground for 10 years and never fail. So it was the quality of construction as well as good performance that made them so famous.
I just
By the
spoke
way,
to
I
our
never.
guests, and, they're in queue. They should be on board shortly.
I did not get an email with announcing this meeting. I just got the US mail.
Okay. Well,
I sent out one mailing to everybody.
That's terrible. I'm not a member and I got an email. I think I was a member years ago.
you don't have to be a member to get an email. That's all I
Right.
do is put your name in. We'll send you an email, no charge.
I used to belong, and I used to get your newsletter.
Right.
Yeah, I'll need to check my spam filter whether it got diverted there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you mention this before,
It
Ken?
went out Went out Wednesday or Thursday, I think.
Oh, okay, I'll
Nick!
double check. No, I never had this problem.
Anyway, I was expecting that Nick would be late. So Nick, you want to start as an open forum? You're muted, Nick.
Yeah, let's go with open forum. Anybody?
Okay, I was suggesting that Ken, again, attended CES, thank God. And he's going to give us a teaser about his presentation next month. So Ken, there you are. You want to, Ken?
I'm here. Just a moment, let me get up some, well, first of all, I can tell you that the show made a valiant attempt at a comeback. It felt crowded at the show in certain exhibit areas. The attendance was a third less from the peak in 2020, but substantially more than in the past 2 years. Well, of course, 2021 was canceled and 2022 was hybrid. And I think in 2022, it may have attracted 40,000. So a major comeback to 115,000 as opposed to 180,000 at the peak. But I really question whether it can ever come back to the peak, because I think many corporate planners have decided that the perks of travel will be limited, considering how much can be accomplished with telecom, Zoom, GoToMeeting, etc. CTA, the Consumer Technology Association that runs CES, in fact, rented all the exhibit halls that they usually do, both in the convention center and in the at what used to be called the Sands, about a mile away. It's now called the Venetian Exhibit Hall. And I asked them, why did they do that? And what they did was they closed the South Hall at the Las Vegas Convention Center and used the new West expansion, which adds about a third to the size of LVCC. And they said, we didn't want to lose the opportunity to rent all the space we might need at future shows. So what can I say? Put that in the category of hope springs eternal.
I have a friend that went to the basketball madness, they call it. Stuff was about a week or two ago in Vegas. And they claim to be one of Vegas' biggest groups. I don't know. That sort of surprised me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I did find out. I went to dinner at one of the new complexes that opened where the Stardust Hotel used to be on the Strip. It's includes a Hilton and one or two other hotels and a huge shopping center and exhibit halls. And it turns out the adult entertainment show is being held there at the same time. And that place was really booming.
Wow, that's interesting. So they've returned then to simultaneous.
Evidently, it's something like AVN or something, the adult, maybe it was Video Network or something like that.
Okay, because as you know, we had some people that were complaining that they were occupying the same time slot in Vegas, but I'm glad to see that.
I was wondering about all these women who added a bit to themselves.
Yeah.
They were pretty noticeable.
All right. Is this Dan Bockrath?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. We're just in the middle of open forum. And
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, just let me. Whenever how would you like to begin, or talking about
we'll
it?
probably go, Dan, with open forum for another 15 minutes, and then you guys will be on.
So,
Okay.
Dan, were you at? I was giving and I'm going to be giving a presentation next month on the Consumer Electronics Show, but I was giving a few teasers. Was your company there?
What could you say that last part? The phone lagged for a second. Where was the presentation?
I'm giving a presentation next month in April on the Consumer Electronics Show, CES.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we may not be there this year, because we're doing some stuff possibly with NAMM. We have a bunch of installs happening in Colorado right now.
It was in January.
For the CES, you were at CES.
Yeah, were you there?
No, we weren't there this year. No, we weren't. But let's see if I can.
Well, one of the points I was making was, yes, there were a number of companies that self-identified as audio and video companies, but
Mhm.
they didn't have as prominent a presence as previous years. And it's been decreasing in favor of things like farming equipment, watercraft equipment, self-driving cars,
Sure.
health equipment, etc.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely changing the sort of trend of what's present is there, more like software as a service too, and cloud infrastructural technologies, things of that sort. Smart Internet of Thing connected devices seems to be the trend. There's some audio presence and some interesting things that happen at audio, like with Dirac. They just announced a new kind of algorithmic way of base management in rooms doing digital correction. That seemed pretty interesting. But we're more of a hardware company ourselves. We're like a technology firm that develops, driver technology.
Where you calling from? What's
I'm in Southern California right now.
Southern California. Okay.
Yeah, we're based in Anaheim, Santa Ana area, Orange County.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the headphone company Audeze?
Yeah.
Audeze, so Audeze. That company is the first company of Dragoslav Colich, Dr. C. So this company is a speaker version of that company. So if you've ever heard Audeze headphones, imagine that sound signature in PA format. So
Okay.
capable of covering many people. It's a super planar magnetic driver. And
Okay.
that's it.
So, okay. Well, you can hold that thought until we get
Yeah.
Till we have you I want to say, do you have on a jacket? Is it chilly there, Dave?
It's windy, yeah. It's been kind of breezy, the ocean breeze. It's sunny, but it's still kind of cool. Those last few days. So
But not rainy.
no, not rainy. There was rain before, and they had a tremendous snowfall. It's like 70 feet of snow in the mountains in Mammoth. Like 70 feet. So
70 or 7?
70.
70?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
No, I can't.
Yeah.
The news reports, Alvin, showed people almost starving because they couldn't get out to get essentials like food.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very crazy.
Well, but I keep hearing that the drought is only over in 17% of California. Is that true?
Right. Yeah, I think that, with this most recent snowfall, it seems like it's over for the most of the state. Like there was 36 feet of snow in some parts of the mountains, 70 feet in like Mammoth area, the skiing area up north. So that should help refill the LA aquifer, and bring some much needed relief to the whole drought situation.
NPR reported that there's been not the optimal management of aquifers in California.
That's
and
certainly
the farmers in the Central Valley have been it sounds like the old movie Chinatown.
It is. That's exactly what it is. There isn't a good aqua engineering catchment system within California itself. So most of the water, is coming from the Colorado River. That's actually used by the municipality of Los Angeles. So I don't know when those infrastructural plans will get re-engineered, but eventually you'd think that the city would need that in order to sustain its growth. Similar to Las Vegas has a similar situation.
Well,
Sure.
The Colorado River is drying up. That's the problem.
Yeah, Lake Mead is basically dry. Yeah, it's really really a major challenge to
People have
grow.
been excavating all sorts of stuff meant to be hidden and buried in Lake Mead.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Like
So I
everyone's
have a brief item.
Yep, go.
It was a newsletter from my local library in Range. And it said, I guess a weekly vinyl club for grades 6 and up. It says new club for teens for people who enjoy collecting and listening to vinyl records. Now, why does that make me feel old?
Wow.
Vinyls are outselling all other media for audio.
Right.
I think that's money wise rather than quantity, but that still counts.
Can't hear you.
Look at the price of CDs now and look at the price of new records.
What are the price of CDs now? The same, roughly, isn't it? Roughly $15.
That sounds expensive unless it's a special one.
I see.
Records are always in the 20s and 30s and more.
I see.
Even at Barnes and Noble, go in. You know, they're selling fewer CDs and sometimes really cheaply, and then they have the $30 and $25 and $30, you know, pop records, and there's more of them
Okay.
because that's where the money is.
In what format?
What do you mean?
Records.
The pop records are in what format? LP?
Vinyl.
LP. Yeah.
Yeah, vinyl.
They're in vinyl.
Wow.
I wonder if it has something to do with the streaming business.
No, I'm talking about go into Barnes and Noble if you have them. If you have, and
Yep.
there's better exhibits of vinyl than there is of CDs. The CDs look like they're trying to get rid of what they have.
Yeah, Newbury Comics is a pretty big music store on the East Coast here. Vinyl is like 2 to 1 in shelf space now versus CDs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because if you can get the $30 for one,
So can I sell mine for a fortune?
I don't know. Harry Weisfeld got hold of a collection of old stuff, and he couldn't get rid of much of it.
Collectors are looking for special things, but not
And,
both.
and yours is probably, you know, really good classical or jazz. What the kids are looking for is some of the classical pop and current pop.
Classical pop.
You mean like old
Like,
Beatles,
Right.
old Beatles and Stones albums would be valuable?
Yep.
Well, they you know, that they redo them, sell them new.
Okay, here's something that I need to have explained to me. The newest formats that we have are immersive and surround sound and Dolby Atmos, and all that stuff cannot be done on vinyl.
Doesn't matter to the kids, and they probably don't care about the sound that much. It's touching touching the record and having a big drawing or words on the back that you can actually read.
Yeah, and they'll watch a movie on a phone, right?
Yeah, the tactile effect is selling right now, I believe. It's one of the things I always missed, even when we went to CDs, when you could still touch them. But compared to an LP,
Well, I don't miss LPs. I was always anxious that the vertical tracking wasn't correct, and
oh, it doesn't matter that much.
well, those are things that I was upset about. David Hadaway, of course, with DV System, came out with a perfect protractor. Then I got obsessed using that and other things, and just too much. If you want to do vinyl right, you've got to stay on top of it with every other LP, and I couldn't do that. I got tired of that. So I welcomed CDs.
You remember in the early days of CDs, they were trying to keep vinyl alive by pitching album art and liner notes.
I do remember that.
Interesting.
I remember the early days, and you couldn't even listen to some of the CDs. I borrowed a second generation CD player from Techniques along with a demo disc, and the sound would peel paint off your walls. And I actually wrote an article for Stereophile about it. And fortunately, I talked to Gordon Holt, and he sent me out to a West Coast producer. It turned out that it was the mastering of the darn CDs that was lousy, and there actually were some decent ones. This was the very early 80s.
I didn't know that you couldn't EQ it like a record.
You're probably right. And you can't change it by using a different cartridge or changing your VTA.
Did anyone see the feature article in today's Sunday Globe about the reconstruction of Avery Fisher Hall?
No, what did it say?
The reviewer said it's much improved and still has some more tweaking. He also spent quite a bit of time talking about, in addition to the main hall, they have created areas to continue the music experience with discussion groups and sort of a cocktail hour in the building, but outside of the hall, and asked whether Boston Symphony could construct space like that to extend the music experience, because they pointed out that the symphony owns the entire block and is not using it. There's still, I don't know, pizza parlor or something next door.
So are you saying they're using one of the rooms before or after the concert in New York?
Yes, they took what was a closed room, opened it up, put in what sounded like windows out and looking over Broadway and 65th Street. So it's more inviting space.
So that takes place before the concert or after the concert?
I think after.
Well, Symphony Hall has a bar, and it also has rooms where they hold meetings and things like that. They could easily do that with what they got now. So,
Yeah, I attended a concert then. It was many, many years ago, and I remember John Williams, who I don't think was the conductor, but he was there, and he was standing in a little podium in the corner of a room, and people were milling around, and he was giving an impromptu talk.
You know, you have to wonder if the New York Symphony Hall, they had followed the acoustic advisor's instructions in the first place, if they would have had to fix it 2 more times. Because they didn't listen to, I think it was both Beranek and Newman, and the people looked at it and said, this doesn't look pretty, we're going to change the chairs and things like that, and they ended up with the sound they got.
Well, I do think I have to reread the article, but I think they mentioned something about redoing the seating, moving the orchestra closer, getting rid of the proscenium.
Again, that'll be the 3rd time they modified it.
But I understand the fundamental problem is they made the hall too wide to accommodate more seats.
That makes sense. Money.
yeah. And they didn't implement the acoustical cloud as designed.
Of course not. Probably didn't look pretty to the to the board.
Possibly, yeah.
That was part of the problem.
Yep.
Was it didn't look pretty. They won't change it. Because they got the best, or at least the most famous acoustic people available at the time.
Well, as we all know, even the Boston Symphony Orchestra was pushed to its current capacity when they opened, due to the issue of revenue, of course.
Yep.
And that pretty much they figured they'll need these many seats to pay the bills. And I guess it worked.
So far, so good. You really worry about orchestras these days.
Yeah, because it is a lot, the BSO. it
How
does
much
have a lot.
does the Boston Pops contribute to the revenue of BSO?
It sounds like a good what's that, G-chat question? Do you use G-chat? You don't use that new Microsoft,
No.
Oh, that AI thing?
the AI thing? Yeah,
I'm too scared to try that.
it's great. And let me see. Well, what was the question? Let me go to it.
The question I asked, you were asking about revenue, and I was wondering whether the BSO is being cross-subsidized by the revenue from the Boston Pops. In other words, how much does the Pops generate versus the symphony? Because the Pops is selling tables and drinks and champagne and stuff like that.
Okay. The Boston Pops OPS revenue supports the BSO, or we'll do it the other way around?
Thanks a lot.
Huh? I'll just do it towards the BSO. Let's see what it comes up with. These guys are pretty good.
So is this AI writing an essay for you?
We'll see. I right now, we'll see what happens. I typed it in, but I don't see the answer yet, or it's already got an answer, but I got so many things on my board that I'm not.
It's probably consulting with Arthur Fiedler.
But it comes up with good answers, and it okay. I'm okay. I got so many things open that I can't find it right now. But it's probably, I'm sure they've already answered my question. There's Bing. Maybe that's where it went to. No, it's not it. Oh well, I'll get back on that. But Nick, you can take it over if you want.
Anybody else have open forum questions or comments? Okay, well, let's move on to our main presenter. Dragonfire. Hi.
Yes. Hi, how are you? Thanks for having us. Yes, thank you so much for having us. Let me see if I can share my screen so you can get a visual on some of what we're working on. Okay. So yeah, we are Dragonfire Acoustics. It's a company founded by Colich, who's also the founder of Odyssey headphones. So Dragonfire is the PA version of what's done in the headphone space with Odyssey.
When you say PA, do you mean like sound reinforcement?
Sound reinforcement, yeah, for public address, for clubs, festivals, home theater, studio operation. So we're a technology firm fundamentally. The speaker company is an offshoot of some of the technology development. Dr. C has a patent on making unipolar magnets. So magnets where the North Pole and the South Pole are combined into one pole, where we're able to build up a magnetic circuit with 1.5 Tesla worth of flux, which is 3 times stronger than a natural Earth magnet. So we can triple the amount of magnetic force in our planar, and then the diaphragm that excites the air is as light as the air itself. It's 50 times lighter than anything ever made before. It's a polyaminide that we licensed from NASA through a civilian technology transfer program. Then we treat it cryogenically in liquid nitrogen to restructure the molecular crystal of the polyimide so that it moves pistonically like a balanced mode radiator within this magnetic field. We deposit an aluminum trace using a laser in an irregular pattern so that it's force balanced across the entire surface of the planar. And so what we get is a superplanar driver that has 3 times more magnetic force and 50 times lower moving mass than the next closest ribbon ever made, but it's full range and capable of 1,000 watts of peak power handling per driver. So, you know, we have a driver that moves 1,500% faster acceleration than anything ever made before. It's solid from 200 hertz to 40,000 cycles. So
How
that's
big is this driver?
it's 5 inches by 10 inches.
Okay.
So that's sort of, you could think of that as like the building block or the dragon scale. It's a sound pixel for our all of our PA products are built around that driver, depending on what the application is. So I'm seeing so that's the first thing that makes Dragonfire unique is it's truly hyper fidelity in nature. You know, these magnets that we're using are not natural earth magnets. They're literally supernatural in their nature by the North and South Pole being combined. So let me see if I can get this file to share through Zoom. Open. Okay.
What's the efficiency of a driver like this?
The driver is over 110 dB efficient from 10K up. And then our systems are, like say our big PA products have 8 drivers per row. And then we can fly 32 rows per side. So every time we double the amount of drivers, it's plus 6 dB efficient, meaning we get into this extraordinarily high levels of efficiencies for large surface arrays, where you could run the whole system off of a cell phone with a few megawatts of battery power. Now, what's truly crazy, incredible to think about is the longevity of the sound. So we're used to thinking about normal point sources, right? Like a horn, like a function 1 or a Danley or any horn you'd think of, that loses 6 decibels of power every time you double the distance from the source with the inverse square law. Line arrays are better in that they only lose 3 decibels, but it's a linear drop. It's half as loud from twice as far away. Could be thought of as a line array in 2 dimensions. So as a surface array, we only lose 1.2 decibels every time you double the distance from the source. So the speakers are capable of throwing the sound literally for miles on axis, and you'll only lose 1 decibel every time you double the distance. So going from 2 miles to 4 miles to 8 miles, we've only lost 1.2 decibel with every jump. But to give you an idea of how this scales up, I recently modeled a project where we were going to put a sound system on a blimp, like a dirigible, you know, like a UAV hybrid airship or a weather balloon, like what they shot down from the Chinese. That will allow us to project if the blimp is flying at 10,000 feet up, it'll allow us to project the sound in all directions for 123 miles with only a 15 decibel over that distance, which provides a coverage area of about 47,000 square miles, which is enough if you had the density of a normal music festival to cover 1 trillion people.
Oh my God.
Hyper fidelity sound. That's the second pillar of what makes Dragonfire different. The third is the control we have over the sound, because each driver can be thought of as like a sound pixel. And our next version of the system will have an individual DAC and amplifier channel for every driver within the network, which will allow us to do things like shading, dimming, beamforming, steering, but also wave field synthesis, where we can create acoustic objects in space. So we could simulate like the experience of a plane flying over Los Angeles just from this sound source that's on this like balloon or blimp. So it's a different paradigm entirely than everything else that exists that's based on a normal electrodynamic driver system in fidelity, longevity, and control. And that's the basic parameters of Dragonfire Acoustics. So, you know, the proof is in the eating of the pudding. You really must hear these speakers for yourself. But it will, I imagine you'll have the reaction that almost everyone who's ever heard them has, where your hair stands on end when you listen to them. because it's so exhilarating. Like, to give you a practical example of the performance improvement, if all other speakers you've ever heard that are based on electrodynamic drivers, be that in the audiophile, hi-fi space, professional space, but traditional compression drivers, woofers, and cones that weigh hundreds of times heavier than this driver, the acceleration change is equivalent to, if all those could be thought of as buses, and there's all sorts of buses. There's Greyhounds and school buses and, luxury touring buses for rock bands and double deckers, but they all still accelerate, corner, and brake like a bus. This is moving to like a MotoGP motorcycle or a Formula One race car as far as the performance improvement of the sound quality. Because their transient response is we're accelerating the driver 1,500% faster than anything ever done before. So there's no distortion. We get one-to-one conversion of voltage to sound. A normal beryllium tweeter, say like in a Focal, that's a 50,000 to 1 conversion. With this, though, we're getting one-to-one conversion of voltage to acoustic sound, because the diaphragm of the driver is as light as the air it's exciting. It's literally a tenth as thick as a human hair. It's 5 microns thick.
Question.
Yes.
How would you shape the radiation pattern in a room?
Well, that's the beauty of it. It's a pure planar, so we don't get radiation in the traditional sense. It propagates energy the way with coherency. So imagine like comparing a 5-watt light bulb that's diffusion of energy in space to a 5-watt laser beam that you could shine into outer space. So if it's on the line of sight of the driver, it's functioning in some contexts like a dipole. So there's a 15 decibel rejection orthogonally to the driver itself. So if you see it, you can hear it. And that remains so from great distances because of that superior throw character in the larger PA format. I'm trying to see if I can share some imagery for you all to see what it looks like.
It would be so directional, you'd have to aim one at each ear.
Almost. We also develop waveguides. So we have a convergence lens waveguide where we can take the output of 3 drivers, which when it's in a normal surface array would be a 60-degree dispersion. And by running it through this 3D printed waveguide, we can get 150 degrees of dispersion from 3 drivers, including like holographic stereo imaging orthogonal to the system itself, which sounds really counterintuitive. Like it doesn't afford what we're used to thinking about in terms of how normal sound behaves in general. Let me see if I can show you guys some imagery to put it in perspective. So it's truly a new paradigm for sound reproduction entirely. I've been using it in nightclubs, music festivals, studio environments, audio forensics, churches, everything you can think of as being traditional. And in every context that I've heard it says redefine for me what sound really is. And I can't hear any other system now and not think about these new technology standards that exist that are made possible with, the bleeding edge of material science and manufacturing. And that's all Dr. C. Like he's truly like a Nikola Tesla level intelligence from Serbia. And everything we've done so far with the systems, we brought a big system to Burning Man last year for only 4 rows. We were able to throw the sound easily like almost a mile. You could hear it across the entire, so where everyone else's systems are losing distance, you can cover multiple football fields from a few speakers, and it's super hi-fi sound. It really is the cleanest, clearest. And I've heard all the best systems in the world. Like I have a friend who's the MBL dealer in New York, and I've heard, the best from Alcons or any of the other kind of ones you could think of, Function, Danley, L Acoustics, Meyer, whatever. They're all still using electrodynamic drivers and compression systems. So there's some sort of disturbances and turbulences and just lag in terms of you're accelerating a heavy object slowly versus when you have a complete line of converting voltage to sound within a supermagnetic field space. We're getting performance improvements that are immeasurable compared to what was previously the paradigm. And it's interesting to be a part of a group doing something like that, because the market is set up as it is. So it's taken time as a startup for people to really even experience it, to get it out there. We're a small company. We don't take any investment, because his concern is that other manufacturers will invest into you as a shell company or a straw man for the purposes of disabling the technology from disrupting the market. So it's a little engine that could kind of story that has slowly begun.
I'm in the home automation field, and I can tell you Google has done that. They have purchased companies and then bricked the product, literally disabled products that customers already owned, and told them, too bad.
Yeah. So he's been through that experience before, and that is the reason why we don't accept any kind of investment or from any other outside entity. And we've had to build the company on our own with our own personal money. And just by the sheer merit of the technology, it's now starting to succeed, where there are installs in New York City and now soon to be in Los Angeles, soon to then thereafter in Vegas, Miami. There's a home product, Mini Dragon system. It's a desktop studio monitor, hi-fi system. That's 2 of the drivers, our own amplifier and DSP product, our own subwoofer designs. And that, even as a personal listening experience, is better than anything I'd have ever heard before at any audio show. You know, and I'm involved in the company, obviously, but the reason I'm involved with it is because it is what it is. Like, I've been seeking the best sound my whole life.
I reported on last year's CES on a technology called distributed mode loudspeaker, DML.
Yeah.
And they have a YouTube video showing an amazing improvement in clarity in a very lively space, namely a subway station.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I have some questions, Dan, based on the review of the Mini Dragons,
Yes.
which as a system goes for 10,000, even though the speakers, is that me or you? What just happened?
Yeah, I just
okay. So
yeah,
you want to go ahead and do your video, and then I'll ask my question later.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to drop some photos of you guys so you can see what the speakers look like. So if you can see here, these are a bunch of different models that are based on that same driver. If you look, this is a PA product for a nightclub. These are a special subwoofer design we do, where each subwoofer has 6 10,000 watt 21s in it, powered. So each of these subs is 60 kilowatt peak power handling.
Can you select the window you want? We're looking at your desktop, not.
Okay, let me see. I'm not sure how to. Can you don't see the speakers right now?
We do, but we see everything else, including us.
Right. There's a photo kind of. Yeah, I was taking a snapshot of my phone when I was looking at the PDF. So these are the speakers, though. Let me just close this so we can just talk.
So when I mentioned this British firm, is your technology similar to the company called Tectonic Audio Labs?
Yeah, Tectonic is building balance mode radiators. I've actually built surface arrays out of those as well, where what we share in common is that the diaphragm of the driver moves evenly. Like if you think about a normal speaker, it moves a bit like a trampoline, where the center of the cone has more X-max travel than, say, the edge is closer to the surround, right? Like the way when you jump on a trampoline, the center moves more than the edges. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to see if I can get the video back on. But you see that you're able to see these speakers, right?
Yeah.
Now, which ones are the woofers? Okay.
Yes. In this one, if you see in this image,
Yeah.
These are two of our subwoofer designs. These
Okay.
subwoofers weigh about 700 pounds a piece. Each of them has 6 10,000 watt 21-inch woofers, and we use both sides of each 21. So we have the equivalent of 24 21s in a very small amount of space. Our subwoofer concept is based on acoustic power density, and we get force multiplication of each woofer in the system with every other woofer because of the proximity to one another. So we also get what's called acoustic power compression when the volume of air inside between these two woofers that are sort of acting like an air motion transformer, we accelerate the velocity of air, which is the equivalent of artificially lower moving mass. So we get that 21 to behave more like a 15-inch woofer as far as its speed and transient response. So that's the hollow woofer. This one that's black here, this is that waveguide, 3-driver Typhon waveguide system, where we take the output from 3 planars, converge them through a compression horn waveguide, and then fan it out to get 150 degrees of dispersion. Moving on, this is the surface arrays, the Hydra planar magnetic surface arrays, which consists of 8 drivers per row. There's a 3-driver version as well. You can see those.
Which
drivers.
one? You're going too fast. I'm not sure.
Oh, can you see? And now this one, if you look at this image, there's the 3 drivers here, 1, 2, 3.
You're showing half a dozen images. Which one?
Well, in this one, you see there's they look like 3 rectangles, like in a curvature. That's a surface array consisting of 3 planar magnetic drivers. In the image below it, we see the bigger PA version of that, where there's 8 drivers per row, and the rigging can support up to 32 rows. So that would be for your large outdoor music festivals or stadiums of that
So
sort.
is that the one you used at Burning Man?
Yeah, that would be the large PA product we brought to Burning Man this last year. So we had 4 rows, basically what you see in this image. This nightclub in New York has 20 rows. We're working on systems that will consist of multiple hangs of, up to 32 rows per side or per quadrant of dimension that you want to project the sound to.
Okay. I'm not sure what different people are seeing, but I'm seeing, let me see if I can change something here.
There's labels on these pictures. The one that says Hydra 3.60 is what he was describing. That's 3 panels across and 4 high on these dolly looking things.
Yeah,
Why
that's
does the nightclub need the same speakers that you use to fill the great outdoors?
Well, it's probably overkill. Like this particular nightclub wanted to go for overkill. I mean, this system at the nightclub is this first image you see with the blue here, where that's 20 rows of Hydra 90 and then 2 of these Hala 621 subwoofers. That's about $1 million system for a relatively small nightclub that's since moved since then. But this would be solidly able to cover 100,000 people if you put it outdoors. The Mini Dragons are here. Let's see. So this is a Mini Dragon system consisting of 2 of the drivers and a desktop foot with our own amplifier. There's an image there below that of the driver itself. We sell that OEM as well. This is more images of the Mini Dragons. The Typhon is the one that has the waveguide. The 3 drivers converging into 150 degree dispersion. So we have a 3-driver Hydra 360, which is like very far field surface array behavior, 60 degrees horizontal, 3 drivers per row, passive. And then if you needed a much wider horizontal dispersion variant of that, you would use it with the waveguide, and that'll get you 150 degrees of dispersion from 3 drivers. And then you can rig as many of those as you wanted. Let me see if I can show you another image. We have a home product that we've just redesigned the Typhon to be a bit more home friendly. Let me send you an image of that too, just to reference. Okay. So. This is okay. So here's three more images of Typhon, which is 3 planar drivers converging into the waveguide, and then with this baffle that fans to 150 degrees. That's a 3D cross section of the waveguide. So each driver loads into those those mouths, and then their output is combined at this in the center of what would look like the head of like a butterfly almost. That's an image of that Typhon array element on top of a Hala D15, so a double 15 cabinet where we do the acoustic power compression, the dipole behavior.
And this was the one for the home.
Yeah, this would be a home product, which could be rigged as a double mono or as a stereo split. There's different ways that we use that.
And what would this sell for?
That system is about 20 grand for 2 and 2 in the amplifier and the processor. And then that's modular, so you could always build upon that if you wanted to use it for a venue or a church or something of that order.
Does that need a specific EQ that you provide?
We do our own equalization. We build our own amplifier with Pascal modules and have our own DSP solution with Danville signal processing. Here's an image of the Typhon system deployed in a mono configuration, where we've got now 2 double 15s on top of 2 150 modules. And so that would give you 150-degree dispersion. And you can put that in the center of your room or the center of your church, and you would get that Dragonfire sound for almost 150-degree dispersion. Here's an example of the same system redeployed as a stereo for the home.
Hold that image for a moment. I'm looking at the dispersion unit, and it looks like wings flanking a horn mouth, for lack of a better word, a panel driver unit. But you tell me there's 3 Dragonfire panels behind each one of those?
Yeah, there's 3 in each of those, and they fire.
What happens with the back radiation of each of those 3 panels?
We do a version of it that's a dipole, where the energy is allowed to be let go, and then we do a closed version too, depending on
okay. All right.
Yeah. So I think this will be our most popular product for the largest application set of it being functional for 150-degree stereo with true like holographic stereo imaging. What's bizarre about these when you listen to them is we could be standing off to the right, say behind the plant, and so you're 90 degrees orthogonal to the actual system, and you'll still hear the stereo image.
Are you selling this equipment for theaters?
Yes, that's one of our markets for sure. Theaters, like lounges. I mean, we have a whole bunch of other products in development that are like these principles of reflection.
What about for Broadway productions, musicals?
Yeah, that would be a great context for that. I mean, we're working to get into that market as we are the church market, as we are the music festival and sports arena, stadium market. A lot of them some of those things are more political than others. Some of them are already kind of existing product solutions that are hard to kind of get away from because of contracts or because inventories for rental houses are set up for that. But as from a performance point of view, this is a whole other kind of animal than anything.
Other than the cost issue, does this sort of sell itself when people hear it? Are they blown away?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does. I've done shows and raves where parties where literally it renders people into tears. They cry when they hear how beautiful it is. It's emotionally riveting to listen to them. It's exhilarating. It makes your hair stand on end when you listen to these speakers. It feels like time is slowing down, if not stopping entirely. I don't know how else to describe it. You have to hear it for yourself. Because the proof is in the eating of the pudding. But this is, it's really, really different. I just think Dr. C's an absolute genius. He's invented magnets that don't exist naturally. Things that he was told are impossible to do by people who have PhDs in applied physics while he was working in magnet labs, and he found a way to converge the north and the south pole of the magnet into one pole and make a magnet that's 3 times stronger than a natural magnet.
Do you have a list of places where individuals could go listen to them?
Yeah, we have, there's a few installations now in New York, in Brooklyn, and now 2 in Los Angeles. Soon to be 3 or 4. We have some private citizens have systems as well, be them Mini Dragons, or there's now some churches in Florida. Like, I get all of that stuff together. We could at some point arrange where I could maybe come up and do a demo of some of the speakers for you all. I live in Brooklyn most of the time, so I have systems in my home where I could do a demo.
Do you know BPI House?
I'm sorry, could you say that
Have
again?
you heard of BPI House?
Yes, I have. Yes.
If the New Jersey or New York club could arrange it, would you give a demonstration there?
I would be very happy to.
I'll see what I can do. I'm from New Jersey.
How,
Okay.
How big and bulky are these? Like, how much?
They're not very big or bulky. Like, if you look at this Mini Dragon system, that's a desktop system. It's the 2 drivers are 5 inches by 10 inches by about a ½ inch thick. You know, the amplifier is 2 RU by maybe 3/4 of a normal width of a rack. We've got a 888 sub. It's quite punchy. To accompany that all fits in a flight case. If you wanted to be like a mixing engineer on a tour bus or in a hotel room, it's agnostic to acoustics. So we don't have any kind of acoustic reflection or diffraction or any of those issues. We obviate those issues entirely. It's direct line of sight sound. The direct arrival on your brain is 12 dB stronger than any reflection that you would get at any part of the bandwidth. So you're able to interpret the musical information much more clearly than with any kind of radiating system.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was curious about how little it falls off with distance, because I thought that was primarily a function of geometry, which is why a line source drops 3 dBs per octave with doubling a distance, and why a point source does 6 dBs. You look like a planar line source. You know, my first guess would have been 3 dBs per octave.
Yeah, we're really a line source in 2 dimensions. So we're a line source in 2 dimensions. So we form a surface array. We're the world's first surface array source. So as a line array is half of a point source, from 6 dB loss to 3 dB loss. Now, when you make that line array source 2-dimensional line array source, you get a surface array. And this holds true for when you have the big PA products, be them the 3 driver or the 4, with up to 4 rows. We start to see this behavior where we then drop down to only losing 1.2 decibels every time we double the distance from the source.
Have you published any papers that show this, graphs?
Yeah,
or whatever?
we have 3 papers that we're preparing for AES this year about our core technologies, you know, because that's where we are as a company, as a technology development firm, but that will detail this, our base technology. We're working on developing a new kind of induction subwoofer that will have unlimited power handling. That's like a 2-year project from now.
This would blow AES away to have those talks and papers and stuff. Trust me.
Yeah, that would be our goal, plus a demo. You know, because you have to kind of hear it in order to get your brain to grasp how different this is, because it shatters the old paradigms of what sound can be as far as fidelity, longevity, and control.
Yeah, if you show this at AES in New York, I'm going there.
Okay, yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, for sure. So
Okay.
I'm
Better than live sound.
right, writing those papers, and we perhaps be able to do some kind of after party event at this nightclub that's not far from AES that we're partnered in, so people can really hear it. You know,
Yeah.
Where can we go for information, Daniel? Is there a website with all your writings and everything?
We have a website now. I'll send you guys all the paper drafts once they're ready to go. Another thing that's amazing about the speakers that's kind of bizarre is there's no feedback whatsoever. So I can take a microphone, a cardioid, a dynamic microphone for a comedy show or karaoke or something, and I can have it directly in front of the speakers, like an inch away from the speakers at full volume, and there'll be no feedback.
Are these speakers safe for hearing?
Yes, they are the most safe of any speaker for hearing because there's no distortion. And a lot of your hearing damage actually comes from distortion more than the overall pressure envelope, depending on your brain isn't built for square waves. So whether those happen in the digital domain or in the analog domain, where you got slap on the driver or you're
But you can get a good experience and keep it to, say, below 100 dB.
You can have a great experience when you cut it below 50 dB. So I mean, I can literally drop the volume by 50 to 60 dB and you'll hear every detail. The dynamic range is extraordinary in that regard. And that's truly the best way to evaluate the quality of a speaker is by playing it at the lowest possible volume. Because most systems, most drivers do not start to produce their full bandwidth until you energize them past a certain threshold. Because our diaphragm is as light as the air it's exciting, it does its full, perfectly flat, instantaneous transient response at any amplitude. Because it doesn't have any, there's no difficulty for it to produce sound at any amplitude because the driver's as light as the air that it's exciting. And it's exciting it with a super powerful magnetic circuit that's 3 times more magnetic energy is available to it per area. It's also a huge driver comparatively. And it sums with its neighbors in large surface arrays seamlessly, so up to 40,000 cycles. So we don't have any kind of the comb filtering or wind impairment. It's coherent propagation of planar energy, from this source that is 1,500% faster acceleration than anything ever made before.
How could I contact you personally if I can arrange a club meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me put my information here for everyone. They can call me or email me, or and we can set up demos. If you know people who want to potentially listen, we can coordinate that. So I just put that in the chat.
Got it.
Got it.
Great.
Oh, and it's Dan at Dragon. Okay.
Yep.
And that would probably be on the website anyways, right?
Yeah.
Your email address.
That will be, yeah.
Good.
Yep.
I'll contact a few people and certainly you've aroused my interest. And you're nearby.
Oh, well, I'm very good. Yeah, I am.
Road trip.
Yeah, road trip. Yeah, come down to Brooklyn, or we'll go to New York, and we can go check out these speakers in person. Let me see if I can drop you guys the brochure too. Let's see, just so you can reference it. But if you're ever in Southern California in the Orange County area, you're all welcome to come visit Dr. C at Odyssey. He's a really amazing listening room. He's a brilliant person, super generous. And he can talk more about it. He was going to join us on the call today, but he had a bit of an emergency that just came up that he's got to take care of. Let me see. But I think I can drop this brochure.
When you say Dr. C, is that an initial, or what's his full name?
Yeah, it stands for Dragoslav Colich. Everyone just calls him Dr. C though. This is okay. Yep.
Well, Dan, I have a couple of questions while you're trying to put
please. Yeah, please.
Did you mention earlier in the talk that your home-based system goes down to 200 hertz?
A single driver goes down to 200 hertz. So if we get many together, we can drop that even further. Like a large enough surface array will play by itself down to about 80 hertz.
And okay. And when you demonstrate these to the point where people start crying, what type of music do you actually use to evoke the best demonstration emotional experience? Is it classical? Is it, tell us what your sources are.
It could be classical, it could be jazz, it could be a Bach suite, it depends on the set and the setting of the environment. It could be electronic music, it could be classic music that people know really well. Like when I first listened to say Abbey Road, on the headphones that are the equivalent technology of this. I remember I could hear groupies whispering in the tracking room that the microphones picked up that information, but it wasn't available to the engineers through their monitors in the control room.
Right.
That there's music hidden in the music. There's information about the experiences that were recorded, but until now have never been able to be represented by the resolution of the playback chain. And that changes with these. Like we were having a demo recently with Scott Page, who was the saxophonist from Pink Floyd, because we're talking about doing something for the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon this summer. And he was stunned just to listen to all these masters that he knew really well and could hear details and mistakes or errors. Or you listen to something like Steely Dan or, you know, Quincy Jones productions, and you just realize how absolutely brilliant these people were as, you know, as engineers, and that you can only tell as good as you are weakest part of your signal chain.
Yeah.
So the monitors make a huge difference. We build planar magnetic microphones too, that are the equivalency for on the capture side of things. It can pick up sound super far distances as well. There's a lot to be kind of rediscovered and reinvented about audio in light of these tools. Like audio forensics is an application for our monitoring system of being able to solve crimes based on acoustic information that could be recorded from a site, you know.
And I gather from the picture that was in the invitation for this webinar that the home system is a closed system. It includes the speakers and the amplification and the preamp. This isn't a system where you can mix and match components.
You could mix and match if you had a certain wanted to use or preamps, and we would work with any customer to be able to do that, just so that the correct properly in whatever space, be that with the hardware unit and software. So we're also a technology firm in that we can develop new things for people. You know, we're developing other projects in other spaces. We're in the process of patenting a new way of harnessing energy directly from gravity, like to solve the world's energy problems. So
Going
there's a
from
lot.
loudspeakers to solving the world's energy problems.
Yeah, we're a technology group, so we work on problems in applied physics and material science. We're audiophiles at heart, and that's really what we are passionate about. But there's, you know, a need for maybe having new types of, also like using hydrogen to transmute energy without combustion, so that, say, if I wanted to run a megawatt worth of power into a sound system that's
So
2 miles.
how soon are you going to obsolete solar and wind power?
I would think that it would be perhaps not obsolete them, but augment them. But we basically have a way that we're patenting where we can generate for about $3 million a unit at scale, a megawatt worth of power generation, just solely using gravity and buoyancy. So we could retrofit oil derrick systems to produce and capture energy, just using the Earth's gravitational field and also using the Earth's electromagnetic field. Like I said, Dr. C is from Serbia. He's quite like Nikola Tesla in terms of level of his inventiveness, his genius. And there's a lot of, every time I talk with him or visit him, he's made progress in major ways in these different domains, you know. So it's an exciting time.
Nikola Tesla was from Croatia. Serbia's been trying to destroy Croatia.
Now we know why.
Yeah.
I take it the headphone business is very good for Audis.
Yeah, it's a good business. I think he's getting close to where he wants to be done with headphones though, and focus on speakers.
Okay,
Because you can do so, you know, with speakers. I mean, like, to imagine I can bring a sound system in one truckload that could give 50,000 people the most sublime experience of their life acoustically.
better than headphones, you say?
Much better. Yeah, much better. Yeah, because there's features of sound that are expressed in a way, you know, where, like with bass, for example, like I can produce our large subwoofers can easily play down to like 15 hertz. They're so capable. You know, you've got 10,000 watt 21s in a very small space, all working together. The subwoofers, the two of them combined, can hit at almost 166 decibels if you wanted, and it's clean though, so it doesn't destroy your hearing necessarily.
Well, you can't be close to that and not destroy your hearing.
Right.
You're gonna
And-
cave your head in.
Yeah. There's a lot to the engineering of it.
Thought you
And,
just said a moment ago, your limit is typically 200 hertz. You could stretch it to 80 hertz. Now you
That's
said
for the-
15 hertz?
That's for the surface arrays. Our subwoofers, we build a whole range of subwoofers to accompany them. And those subwoofers employ our own technology, like the nesting of drivers within either other driver for higher acoustic power density and acoustic compression. We're developing our own induction woofer technology that will use the principal electromagnetic induction as opposed to conduction. So we'll have woofers that have unlimited power handling in the future.
Well, certainly there are limits imposed by, the physical materials that you have to have. Woofers implies having cones and suspensions, and you can't throw infinite power through that without launching it into space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
We need to have
the real-
Alvin put his AI on this, see what it says.
yeah, the real choke point in normal woofer is your coil. You know, that you overload it, your coil, and you fry the traces of the aluminum former on the voice coil.
Yep.
So we're taking another approach as far as where instead of it be like a coil, it'll be like an aluminum pole piece that can handle, tens of thousands of watts of power in a small form factor. And then you're right, there's mechanical limitations, but we can engineer those to where that's not usually the thing that dies on you when you're overcooking a woofer. And then you also don't have the choking of the woofer at resonance from the amplifier in terms of current delivery. So there's a lot of benefit. So that's a major thing I'm pushing for, because we have this special full range mid-high driver. For us to develop our own woofer driver technology and approach will give us eventually, a system where with FPGA networks and DSPs, we'll have control of every driver in the entire network individually. They'll all be on a network. We can communicate with them with different FIR coefficients and bend the sound and shape it and dim it and diagnose it, and wave field synthesis, create 3D audio objects in space that you can experience in the room. So there's a lot of cool research and development and new applications that are afforded because of the tool set. But just raw speakers comparing to normal things too, they also just sound absolutely lovely. Like I've never met anyone who didn't hear them, who didn't think it was the nicest thing they ever heard. So it's just about growing the company now from, a starting point to getting a little bit more brand recognition and more people getting to listen and, getting them installed in places and start. We had that stereophile review that Jason Cerveris did. He thought they were just magical. I retuned his system for him about 15 times for a specific Vivaldi track, where he was able to ask me, like, I want the second violin to have a little bit more aggressive nature on it, and the first violin to be a little bit more muted. And I could tune it within 0.1 dB per tenth of a hertz over and over and over again until you get exactly what you want.
When was that published?
That was a few years ago, I think in 2017 or 18. It was in Stereophile. I can send a link for that too.
Yeah, I saw that review. In fact, Dan, it leads me to ask a couple of questions. The
Sure.
Mini Dragons required huge amount of EQ to make them flat, something like 30 to 40 dB.
There's an equal, it's not that they require a huge amount of EQ. I think that I have to see what he wrote about that. There's
Guys, we need to do
properties of
something. Alvin's been duplicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, there's properties of the driver that we equalize first in the input and set basic crossovers. There's a rising response of the driver naturally above 10 kilohertz. It's over 110 dB efficient. And what's brilliant is that actually compensates for loss of high frequencies due to air friction drag. So we're able to get super far throw while retaining high frequency information because of that rising response. And then we implement a special version of Dirac that we're partnered with Mini DSP for room correction, impulse response as well. So it's just a far more tunable kind of speaker than anything, because it doesn't have inherent physical issues the way that a radiative source will have reflection and diffraction off a box, or it'll have delay and lag in terms of its acceleration of its diaphragm. That'll have breakup modes because of the material of the thing. Like, all those issues have been addressed and most of them obviated with this new driver platform.
But Dan, with that amount of EQ, that's a huge waste of energy. And is that also required for the PA, the larger systems, that much EQ?
No, I don't think, no. Like, I'm not sure from this article, I'm trying to read what Jason would said that I would have implied that.
Well,
no, they don't really.
The John Atkinson measurement part is where he talks about.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, I do see that. That it's a little bit more like, so digital signal processing is very much, I mean, it's employed in all modern systems by now. I think there's maybe a certain esoteric level of audiophile where you're making an analog circuit crossover, which people are enthusiasts about that. In the same way about vinyl, like we were talking about earlier in the open forum, a lot of young people like vinyl because of the aesthetics of owning a vinyl, putting a vinyl on. There's maybe things about the sound of vinyl that is coming from a rotational source even that people appreciate compared to a digital file. Feels, as a pulse code modulation scheme, feels maybe colder or more clinical. But DSP and amplification are very readily available resources now. They've gotten extremely powerful in terms of how sophisticated you can get. And so using that as a tool set to augment the natural characteristics and complement the acoustic character of the driver is essential to any kind of modern system design. Our new version of the Mini Dragon system will just use the DSP that's in the amplifier that we can have. There's other systems for correction. We're working with Edgar Chereri, who's the rocket scientist from Princeton, who's the developer of Bach 3D sound, where you can do a stereo crosstalk to create 3D sound just from just a stereo source using crosstalk cancellation. So we hope to have that included in the amplifier in the next round as well. You can create 3D soundscapes. It's quite an amazing effect if you've ever gotten a chance to demo Bach with 2 A's.
I've heard it years ago, actually.
Yeah.
An earlier version. And one of the demonstrations he gave was just water flowing, and it felt like I was in a pond with water all around my neck.
Yeah. Yeah, the brain really gets kind of confused by, I mean, you hearing Bach with the Mini Dragons is a whole other level because they're the most directional speaker ever made too. Edgar keeps an index of directivity measurements for all speakers, like as a public project at Princeton. And he measured the Mini Dragon system after we started partnering with him. And he said it was orders of magnitude more directional, which lends itself well for Bach. But it'll be interesting to see if we can do the same thing with the Typhon system. So you can get 3D sound from multiple positions in the room. You don't have such a narrow sweet spot to get the crosstalk cancellation effect.
I think it's improved it a lot since I was there. I mean, I heard it must have been 7-8 years ago, and it's way more advanced now.
Yeah, it's and that's every year. I mean, he works like for DARPA contracts and fusion power sensors for rocket propulsion.
Yeah.
So there's he's an
That's what I understood. That he designs ion rockets for use in outer space.
Yeah. He's a really cool guy. I know him personally. Yep. Work with him. So we're working with him working on better tuning arrangements than even Dirac is able to achieve for the future. There's, you know, tuning a system for an outdoor festival is different than tuning it for an individual. There's a lot of different trade-offs that you make in terms of creating like a sweet spot of certain kind of flatness or certain musicality. But it's just a much more tunable tool as a base point than anything else that you've encountered, because the energy is very controlled and you have super high accuracy and precision control over what you can do with the drivers, you know. But there's a learning curve to it too. It's really a different tool set that requires kind of rethinking your understanding of how to EQ sound systems, how to set them up for how to detect them at big events.
I'm gonna have to jump off. It's I got a dog to feed, but it sounds interesting. I've been looking forward to some emails with your plans to come up to the Boston area at some point. And
that would be great.
My particular interest is the home system.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I can arrange to bring one of those to do a demo, and we could talk about it more. And you know, so that's what. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
You bet. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I got to see this at AES. I mean, that sounds like the way to do it. So you get a whole lot of people get to hear it. You know,
One at a time.
Yeah.
well, not necessarily one at a time. I mean,
Well, if it's so directional, how would it work for a large audience, like in a movie theater?
I'm talking about the home system, the
Typhon.
yeah, that 3 drivers per side.
Yeah, that easily could do 500 people, that little system, and everyone get the same experience.
Yeah, I mean,
If you shape the radiation pattern, yeah, like aim it all around.
Yeah, there's a lot we can do with DSP even to shade information in the space. When we have control over every driver, we'll be able to bend the sound in the room, you know, using like a beamforming stack. So there's just a lot of research and development going on to optimize the tools for different application contexts.
What are you doing with the back wave right now?
In the Mini Dragon system, it's a dipole, which helps to cancel any incidental reflection off of the desk, off the walls. In the Hydra PA products, the exposed surface arrays, it's closed with some acoustic insulation inside. We may do a dipole version of that as well, because there are advantages to running dipole in large formats. You can create cardioid effects just naturally by doing that. The Typhon is closed, but there'll probably be a dipole version of it as well, as the product line becomes more diversified.
If it's a dipole that has a beam going backwards and reflecting off the walls, as well as a forward beam,
yes,
how would that help get rid of reflections?
Well, you need to space the dipole at least 2 feet from the wall before the incidental reflection off the wall would come back. But it's your incidental reflection off your first wall, orthogonal to the driver, that creates more of your problems acoustically. So the dipole is canceling itself at the adjacent wall, since the front wave and the back wave are out of phase and they meet at the wall.
Right, the figure of 8
Walls
pattern.
with the sidewalls on the sides,
Yeah.
which makes it you only have to worry about the back wave in this
Right.
rather than 360 degrees of dealing with the room.
Correct. That's correct.
That's
So-
true of all dipoles, electrostatics, the magnaplaners, same thing. They have basically no significant side energy at low frequencies.
Right. That's correct.
Yes, they do.
That's
The
bouncing
ener-
walls, but they have less. But coming off the speaker itself, it completely cancels at very low frequencies.
It bounces off the front wall and then over to the side wall and out again.
But there's no energy directly at low frequencies off the sides of the dipole.
Right. But there is significant energy equal to the front energy off the
You have
back.
to deal with the back wave. That's the biggest problem with the dipole.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
which
is not a problem. You want the back wave.
Yeah, if you position it correctly.
Right.
yeah, you just space it correctly. And I mean, the improvements it gives you are far outweigh the cost of you engineer it properly.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you guys just taking the time on a Sunday to hear about Dragonfire. You know, and I'd love to give you all a demo sometime in Boston or New Jersey or in New York. We could all get together and just do some listening. It's the only way to really, you know, get a real sense of it.
Did
Yeah.
you give us a website, Daniel?
Yeah, it's dragonfirepro.com, and the website's about to get updated with all the PA stuff, like in about a week or so. But you can see the Mini Dragon stuff with more information, some educational videos and stuff from there. Dragonfirepro.com.
Okay, thanks.
Does that website include your energy product?
No, that's Dragonfire Power. That stuff is still in patent right now, so we'll have that coming out probably in about 6 months or so.
Cool. Can't wait. I'll send you some email.
Yeah, please do. I look forward to it. We'll go to AES.
Dig it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it all.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Be in
you.
touch. Okay.
Cool.
I assume no one here has heard this?
I don't know anybody who has. That review came out in 2019. I haven't seen any of these. I don't know where there are any dealers or demonstrators or.
He said New York City, there are a few.
Okay.
And if I contact the clubs I'm associated with, he offered to do a demonstration if you've ever heard of VPI House. The Weisfelds bought a house where the manufacturers have come to demonstrate product using their turntables, of course. It's a cool house with like 3 or 4 rooms, and, and you can feed people and everything. We've had quite a few meetings there that are very, very good.
Well, that'd be cool. I mean, I'm certainly willing to travel to hear one, but I think these guys need to put together a realistic development plan and promotion plan and figure out how to put some places in the website to tell you where you can go hear one.
Well, he said that there were addresses in New York. I haven't looked. I must say, though, he claims so much. I'm leery of what he claims, and I'd love to hear it, particularly the lack of losing energy with distance. 1.2 dBs when you drop. No sense.
Better than live sound.
You're right. And like I was trying to say, the way I understood it is it's basically a geometric function. The reason point sources drop at 6 dBs is they lose energy vertically and horizontally. The reason that line sources only drop at 3 dBs is that they only lose energy horizontally. Well, he's basically a line source. So I expected 3 dBs. Sound 128 miles away, I have my doubts.
Well, he's talking about making a large array, and I mean,
Still, 128 miles away,
Like a laser.
that's listening to a jet engine from 128 miles away.
Yeah, I can't hear a plane overhead at 7 miles away.
But it sounds interesting. I'd like to hear what part of it's true and what the final results really are.
Excuse me for being skeptical, but when he threw in his harnessing gravity to produce energy and obsolete power plants and all that, that's really over the top.
I have an idea about that. I have the impression that he's using wave power. Okay, and if waves will lift and lower, if you will, a boat, and you
Oh,
can
that's-
derive energy from that and convert it to electricity.
Oh, there've been attempts to harness the oceans that
That's been
way.
around for a long time.
He's not talking about the ocean, I don't think.
No, he
Well, he
talked
did
about
say
gravitational
buoyancy.
waves.
He used the term buoyancy.
Right. But he said gravitational waves. It sounds like something out of general relativity.
Well,
Ocean waves are a function of gravity.
I just
Well-
sort of cut that off and figured I'm just an audiophile. I'm only in the audio portion. And if we could get him to give a demonstration in New Jersey, that would be interesting.
I would be happier if these guys were strictly focused on audio. Let's hope they, push it. I'll keep watching. If if they get to do a demonstration at AES, it'd be worth attending.
Also,
Alvin, you cut out.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Alvin.
It got him.
how about that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah,
remember, a
mhm.
line source is defined within a room. If you go outside, and this balloon or blimp he's talking about, you no longer have a line source, you got a point source. So I don't know how his physics is working out, or I'm missing something.
He didn't say his was a line source.
Well, he said a two-dimensional surface or a two-dimensional line source,
Mm.
and that
What? I mean, the light source is two-dimensional, as if that's different than his when he uses it. Now, maybe he means when he
no,
puts,
a line source is one-dimensional.
oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay,
Maybe
he
he
said
needs big arrays with multiple, where he swings them around.
right, but once you have a shitload of line sources side by side, it's now
No.
kind of a plane source or something. I don't know.
It's a planar now, except it's rounded in a sense.
It would be like a video projector that projects out at a certain narrow angle toward your screen, unlike a light bulb, which goes out at 4 pi steradians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mm.
I have a lot,
What bothers me is that the thing would have no relationship to the acoustics of a live performance. How can he say it sounds better than live sound?
That sounds like an impossible statement.
well, I felt like I was getting a lot of hand waving.
agreed.
What nightclub is going to spend millions for a sound system when they could hire many bands for that?
Well, the bands need sound systems to make the sound.
Yeah, but we've heard anything from Glenn Miller to the Beatles through old analog systems, and they pretty memorable.
And the other one is when he said at 50 dBs, you get all the detail in the world. Our ears don't work that way. That's impossible.
Yeah, what's he talking about? Picking up groupies in the recording studio?
It hears below the normal level of the noise floor, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
And possibly distortion. If there's less distortion in the speaker, maybe you could hear deeper,
Oh, you can.
if you take my meaning.
These is awfully low, and the question is whether the noise around you would muffle it to a certain degree.
It will.
And you're not going to hear detail in the treble or the bass because of Fletcher Munson.
You're right.
Oh, and us old guys in the treble.
What'd you say?
Would you repeat that?
Digital pretty much takes care of dynamic range, right?
Yeah, how many can still hear the
I
flyback
thought there's a
transformer?
difference between dynamic range and dynamics. I'm much
We
more.
don't have flyback transformers anymore.
I'm
I
more
know,
interested
but used to be
linear.
able to.
Linear dynamics and dynamics. And what I mean by that is linear change in level versus how loud you can play cleanly. If you're compressing, but you play it loud cleanly, so what? But if you're compressing as you change level, especially at low levels, it sounds like a wideband radio to me.
That's a good thought. It must be that to hear the groupies that are in the control room, you'd have to have a lot of compression, right?
Maybe.
Compression sucks. I think compression is the single most important factor in making sounds sound real.
More
I
compression
really-
or less?
What?
More compression or less?
Less, no compression,
Right.
Yeah, are you talking about power compression?
I guess.
You don't know
Still
what
got- You can tell when there's live music when you're outside of a room. Frequency response. The only thing that's really there is some sense of the change in level of dynamics.
Yes, I agree with you. It's the dynamics that distinguish live from recorded.
And in fact, I always remember a review Gordon Holt did on the KLA-12, where he liked the speaker and said the octave-to-octave balance wasn't quite right. And Henry Close was still a KLH at the time. And he said to Gordon, "You're wrong." And in the next issue, Gordon sort of apologized because he said, he changed the Academy of Music in Philadelphia, and damned if the new seat wasn't exactly the same balance. Well, both seats were live sound, so it ain't frequency response.
I would think it is more exciting the reverberant field of the entire room that gives the next room effect.
In live sound. But in recorded sound, hopefully that's already on the recording.
No, it has to be put into the room.
Bounce,
What's the question?
I would say, ideally to me, you'd want an anechoic room with a recording with all the reverb already on it, recorded
No,
properly.
no.
If you got the sound of the live
Anyway.
product on the recording, I think that's what was wrong with Bose.
See me after class.
I think I'll tune out. I think I'll tune out. This is getting redundant.
Okay, see you later, Dave.
Yeah, I'm tuning out too, Nick. I'll leave you.
Okay.
All right.
Shame we didn't have a few more technical people at the meeting, that knew the math and things. Although I'm not sure he could have actually answered real engineering questions.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there are no papers available, no preprints, no graphs and stuff like that, except for the stereophile review, kind of makes you wonder.
And the stereophile review doesn't look that wonderful. I took a quick look at Atkinson's measurements.
I agree. There's a heck of a lot of EQ going on.
Oh, it wouldn't work without EQ.
Yeah.
Massive EQ.
Yep. So, I have a little more hope for his home system. I mean, I'm not interested in a desktop type environment, but the proof will be in the hearing.
That's why I love
I'm just looking at his website, Dragonfire Pro, and something just caught my eye. The company has built USB cables, hand built with cryogenically treated connectors.
Yeah.
It's for a digital signal.
He believes in cryogenics. He cryogenically treats his diaphragm. I bet they cryogenically treat those magic magnets.
I don't know cryogenics, and I don't see why they would.
I thought that was to preserve Ted Williams' head.
I don't know cryogenics, and I don't know why they would help acoustics and audio. So,
Well, you hear all sorts of arguments, but of course, the arguments they give can't be demonstrated relative to what you hear, because that isn't never the only change.
right.
It's not a real A-B comparison. I mean, there's some people that believe in it religiously. And I'm always worried because a lot of the things that we think were trivial, such as microphonics that I absolutely never believed in before, some of them came true. I mean, I couldn't believe when I changed feet under a CD drive, the difference it made. And I wouldn't have believed it unless I had heard it. And I think some of the other ones, some of the other things, can affect. I've heard the difference that you can make it in the sound of a CD when you handle the static electricity on the CD.
Well, why don't you get him to give you a demo and then you come back and tell us you were either blown away or it's a cult?
According to him, everybody is blown away. 100%. It sounded like. I will contact the guys that handle demos in the New Jersey club and the New York club and see how they react. I mean, sometimes they react like, don't like your suggestions. Trying to think. There was a British company I wanted to suggest that made a two-way speaker that cost 300 audio note. They made a 320,000 two-way speaker, and Mark Block refused to do it. He called it, a scam.
Will this meeting be on YouTube, on our YouTube?
I don't know, and I don't know if it'll even happen. It's just interesting enough, and it's close enough that I thought I'd suggest it, because the New Jersey club and New York club like to have meetings with manufacturers and dealers.
No, this meeting.
Oh, this one.
I don't know if they stopped recording.
Oh,
No, we're still
Before-
recording. The whole thing will be available through the Boston Audio Society website.
so if I say anything more stupid, I'm in real trouble.
We have
wow.
we have a YouTube channel too, right? Isn't that where they put them?
I believe so.
I do remember, I knew Gordon Holt very well in the 70s, and one of the great things I always thought about him was he once in a while would stick his foot in his mouth, and he'd admit it the next issue. And it never bothered him because it was, so what? Now I'm in the right direction.
Oh, that's what scientific investigation's all about.
Well, you have to have the right kind of strong ego to do that. Most people make mistakes, blame it on someone else, or claim that it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah. No, if you hear about a demo of any of Dragonfire stuff, let us know through the Boston Audio Society.
Okay. If I can, if I'll try this week I'll
Yeah.
email the two guys that would be involved in it
Yeah,
if they're interested.
cool. Well, if that's all, thanks a lot.
Bye.